The action of this story is set in the knight's first administrative department. I'm here about the anniversary of the victory. How is your budget allocated? A man inquired. Mary has already prepared everything. I've already given all the contractor details to Mistress Mary. She must have a lot of work to do. And the costumes. Layla's running around to the tailor's. The staff were talking amongst themselves about important matters. Mistress Mary, how about you, Mistress Mary, about... All the guys wanted something from this girl. The female employee was really paying too much attention to her work activities. Mary, at least take a little rest during lunch. How urgent is it that you're even doing this at lunch? Another man remarked. Dealing with some old papers. Anything I can help you with? The girl asked good-naturedly then. Well, the co-worker explained that it could wait, too. One must be sure to eat first. Mary, after all, is so used to working a lot that sometimes skips meals and instead continues to do paperwork. Well, this is Mrs. Mary we're talking about. Without her, it's like having no hands. When you're done with the paperwork, will you let me see it? When another guy joined the conversation. What's the big deal? Our Mary is a bright and kind person. You could really use those papers, too. Slyly replied the guy to the other employee. You need them, too? Mary asked, surprised. Even then, the girl noticed that something was not right here. But at the same time, the protagonist of this story was such a kind person that she could not refuse other employees. She did not even notice such moments when she was used only to do someone else's work for them. At such times, her colleagues would give their work to the poor girl, and they would go home early and rest. There was no one to keep an eye on it. After a couple of minutes, another girl joined the guys. Catherine immediately wondered why everyone was here. That's when she caught them red-handed. It wasn't hard to guess that the co-workers were asking Mary to do something for them again. Catherine also began to explain to the girl that it was necessary to know how to refuse. You were late yesterday, too? You're the same as always. What are we supposed to do with you? You always stay out late. Catherine was indignant. To get away from the negative atmosphere, one of the guys jokingly offered to introduce a man. Your older co-workers, instead of helping with work, ask for something for themselves. That's why you have so much to do. And you're still offering to introduce Mary to someone. Don't even think about it, Catherine immediately declared. Mary herself knew very well that she didn't need a relationship right now. She didn't think she needed it now or later. In general, all Mary thought about in life was how to feed her family and make enough money, which day to stay longer than usual to get paid overtime. What kind of relationship could there even be to talk about if all one had to think about was how to survive in this cruel world? I say that because I'm worried about you, Mary. If you don't want a relationship and you're being hit on, that's harassment. Catherine tried to get her point across. The guy, however, continued to insist on introducing the girl to someone. That's when another co-worker intervened in the conversation. Mary, aren't you sick of him yet? Forgive him. That's just the way he is, apologized the co-worker, and try to get more rest. I heard when you came to Division 3, you were always staying up late. At first, I thought you were pushing for the chief's promotion. You got for every job, even fulfilling the Count's personal requests. Noted the boy. You have family problems, don't you? I understand it all perfectly well. But you still need to make time for yourself and your family. I have no time at all since I got married. Oh, that's right. You don't have anyone. The colleague also added, Thanks for your concern, but I'm fine. Mary made it clear. After which the girl continued in silence and solitude to do her work. Then the girl remembered that she hadn't written the gift list yet. Also, the thought came into her head that today was the Lantern Festival. Turning around, Mary noticed that the clock had already struck 10 in the afternoon. Phew, I guess it's already over. What do we have at home? Mary wondered. Okay, Dennis isn't home for lunch tomorrow, only Selena to cook. Mary began to ponder. The The girl always really thought out such nuances to calculate the budget properly. After all, there was a limited amount of money, so it was necessary to save a lot. Then the girl also remembered the words of her colleague. "Mary, I understand that you have problems in the family, but rest more and spend time with your family." Mary herself was well aware of all this, but to spend more time with her family, you need money. For the most part, the girl works overtime for a raise, but there's another reason. At that second, a man walked into the office. The Count was surprised that someone else was still at work at this late hour. As soon as he looked around, he immediately knew it was Mary. It wasn't the first time the girl had stayed after work, so the man wasn't even too surprised about it. Or rather, he wasn't surprised that it was the hard-working Mary and no one else standing in front of him. "I was just on my way to see you, to hand over the paperwork. Sorry if I kept you waiting." Immediately, the girl began to apologize. "You're just sitting there like that. Do you have much more to go? Do you have a spare moment tomorrow?" the Count asked unexpectedly. "Then don't plan anything for lunch. Have lunch with me," the man decided to offer. Another reason why Mary disappears 24 hours a day at work is that she is unrequitedly in love with the Count. How she longs to see this beautiful man every day, and how fortunate it is that she works in the same department with him. A couple hours later, the girl was already home. There she was met by her brother and little sister, who also began to ask how the day went. The guys also told her that they had already eaten. "Dennis, how's work? It's not as dangerous there as the old one, is it?" Mary inquired, but the guy told her to take better care of her sister. "Did something good happen today? You look happy," Dennis also remarked. But Mary told him that it was all nonsense, and she should go to bed since it was getting late. The next morning, the girl was picking out her clothes for work. Mary still couldn't sleep as she was thinking about last night. Mary was still completely clueless as to why the Count had made such a strange lunch offer. "He called for dinner so suddenly. Has something changed?" At this time, thought of Mary. Since the girl was in love with him, you could get yourself really worked up. Without even noticing it, she was up all night. Her feelings of love dominated her, and it was completely unconscious. "Dennis! Selena, don't forget your lunch before you go. I'll bring you lunch tomorrow. And Selena, will you pick up the laundry when it's dry?" Mary asked before she left. Mary herself continued to think that she should not expect much from the Count. It was enough for the girl to just work together. She was happy to be just his subordinate. But that day, the Earl unexpectedly proposed something that Mary could not have imagined. "Will you marry me?" the man asked in a serious tone. Bernard Alex, an earl who came from the noble Alex family, to which many empresses also belonged. 8 years ago, under his command, a brilliant victory was won in the marshlands, thus succeeded in winning the war with Daisy. The Earl returned from that war a hero. The Earl saved many lives during the war, including Mary. For the girl, he became more than a savior. He became her lord. She fell in love with him. Of course, Mary knew that her feelings were not mutual. "What? What has gotten into you? I'm just your administrative assistant, a commoner. I have no titles," said the girl, right after she received the unexpected offer. The guy stated that status had absolutely nothing to do with it. "Don't remember what you said at the reception a couple months ago?" Mentioned Alex. "That you don't want a relationship, not now, not later," added the Count unexpectedly. The girl was very embarrassed as she didn't think Alex had heard that. "You all heard it! All because I'm always being tried to be set up with some knight right in front of the Count's nose. I was just being emotional," Mary thought to herself. "So you don't have anyone right now. So why don't you marry me?" The man continued to insist. "Mary, but people have to love each other for that to happen, or at least there has to be mutual sympathy," explained Mary. Therefore, the girl explained that she thought this marriage impossible. If one married only for love, no one would have political marriages. You're a smart girl, but surprisingly very naive. Have you even had someone? That's the problem. The man continued to embarrass her. "I've had a lot of men, more than 10 for sure," Mary said emotionally. It wasn't true, of course, and Bernard immediately recognized her lie but didn't speak up. "Very well then. Think over my proposal. We will spend a pleasant time in each other's company, and when the time comes, our paths will part." The Count began to narrate. It was then that the man remembered that he had not told the most important thing. Bernard was proposing a marriage of convenience. "In 3 years, I will pass the earldom to my nephew. You must know how I got the title." Alex also added, "The mourning has long since ended. Although I inherited the title, tradition dictates that it should go to my older brother's son. In the meantime, guarding our lands for these 3 years is my sacred duty," explained Alex. "However, the Empress has offered me to marry a member of the imperial family," complimented the Count. "Of course I will refuse, even if the Empress herself offers me. I don't want to sow strife between our lands, but I need a reason to refuse," narrated the man. "And I need someone who will pretend to be my wife for these 3 years," finally explained Bernard. "That's why the man asked Mary to marry him. To be honest, I chose you because you aroused the least suspicion. I advise you to think it over. If I marry a noblewoman, she'll need guarantees, an heir, a continuation of the Earl's family. It'll be even more difficult with a woman who wants profit. And you don't seem to care what happens to Alex's holdings." The Earl explained his position. "I thought I could bear it all. I guess deep down I still hoped." At that moment, Mary's mind replayed. "If you agree, I'll pay off all debts and on top of that add as much as you want." The Earl also decided to offer. The man said that he could help educate the brother and sister and get them jobs later. "Isn't that what you work hard here day and night for? I won't interfere in your life. We'll pretend to be happily married. In return, I'll provide for you. You'll be the capital's top fashionista." The Count continued to motivate her. But Mary didn't really need any wealth. The girl thought that she would not take a penny from Alex. However, Mary alone, no matter how hard one tried, was unlikely to put her brother and sister back on their feet. "It's okay, you did the right thing," consoled the girl on the way home. "Mary, I need to be sure of something. You don't have any feelings for me, do you? If you like me even a little, consider my offer null and void, and then I won't make any more personal requests of you." The man also explained that evening. "That you—" "Of course not. I am totally indifferent to you, your ladyship." Mary had to answer as she had no other choice. She realized that if she admitted to the man that she was in love with him, there would never be a contract or a marriage of convenience. Not only that, she would not even be able to see the man. So it was necessary to pretend that the girl was absolutely indifferent to him. Mary remembered her grandmother always telling her not to forget that they were of the Quarto family. Although her grandmother had taught her how to write and count, they lived like everyone else. Their affairs were getting worse and worse. There were more debts every day. All Mary wanted was to live like normal people. But when she was 17, war broke out. Daisy's troops were on their way, but the family wasn't going to flee. The grandmother declared that they were staying here. "I'm not leaving our town. The war will be over soon. There's no need to panic. I'm sure the Emperor will take action." Father decided to stay in the city, but he was wrong. "Those Daisy bastards are living the defense. The city is about to go, Captain, awaiting orders," fussed the knights. "Let's abandon the city." The captain then decided to announce. The top commanders began to take bribes because of the fact that there had been no warriors for a long time. To reach the capital, they need to cross the mountains. To do that, they need to take our city. As long as Daisy is in town, we have time to prepare, informed the man to his knight. The Emperor left the city. Mary's family lost her parents, and her younger sister stopped talking. All the papers proving their nobility had been burned. They became war refugees. They had to survive somehow, so Mary begged on her knees for one of the knights to hire her. "Told you I don't have a job for you. You keep coming. I'll be in trouble too." The man explained to her. Even though the girl talked about how they sister and brother hadn't eaten anything in days, it didn't work that way. Still, she couldn't work. Everyone here doesn't have anything to eat. I've had people come to me who have an even worse situation. Damn this war. It's over and people are still dying like flies, a man said. "If you can't get a job, go begging. Go to Bart's. He usually has a lot of nobles there. Maybe you'll get something." The man decided to advise. "I just have to get some food," sadly thought the protagonist of this story. The girl, as the man had advised, decided to go to Barth. She couldn't even believe that there was such a place in the city. There were no refugees in the city. The officers who were tasked with re-establishing the system had come to this place. During the war, the rich had managed to keep their fortunes. Also, Alex's knights under Bernard's command were stationed in the city. Having won a brilliant victory in the war, they never returned to the capital. The knights settled in the city and helped rebuild the city. They were well aware that their military glory would quickly be forgotten. However, to them, they were forever the saviors of the entire city. But they were all just people, and the knights began to grow weary of this burden. "Do you know how many mouths I have in my family? You sure have more. How can't you see that people are starving to death here?" Resented one of the men who was not given any more food. "How tall you are! Shall I show you my daughter?" The woman stared at the knight. Mary, on the other hand, came for her rations. She was given a loaf of bread, and though it was all she was given, the girl was overjoyed. "I've done well. I've done everything right. Dennis and Selena will have food tonight. It's all right. Might be able to get some more tomorrow. We've got to get a job." Mary rejoiced. As the girl was just about to head home, she noticed some conflict with the man. "If you want to eat, then work. Or do you think knights don't notice anything?" scolded the knight. "I have to chase away vermin like you every morning. And what are you doing here? Come to beg too?" Noticed the man to Mary, who was standing nearby. "Mute, are you? Answer me! I'm in charge here!" The man started yelling at her when the girl didn't answer him. Mary then explained that she needed a job. "There you go. Good for you for looking. Pretty face. How about you help me pass the night?" said the man. He stepped closer to Mary to take her by the hair with his nasty hands. "Do you need food? Also money and rags. One night with me and you'll have enough for a couple days. What do you say? Isn't that a good offer?" The unpleasant man went on talking. As soon as the girl accused him of lying, the knight immediately threw Mary with all his might to the floor. "What are you showing off for? You think because you asked for a job, it makes you different from the mainstream people? As if you'll remain a pathetic insect!" The man was already shouting at her. Mary didn't understand why she had to go through all this. They say that after a victory, the capital is drenched in luxury. But for some reason their city was in poverty. The girl wanted a little bread to feed the younger ones. And in the end, she fell into the hands of an evil knight. But fortunately, the count appeared to the girl at just the right moment. He stopped the knight from beating Mary. "Judging from your clothes, you're a servant here. Is there a problem with that? Your job is to give out food to the residents. In case you didn't know, get to work now," Bernard Alex ordered. "Let's go, your lordship. We have a lot to do today." Immediately afterward, his aide suggested, "Upstairs won't like it if we don't submit a report on the post-war state of the city in time. We can't put it off any further." Knight also added. But the girl tried to hold the count back. She grabbed his leg to plead for help. The aide immediately interrupted the girl without letting her say a word. "Let's go. Even if you help now, they obviously won't thank you. They will only ask for more," said the assistant, who thought the girl was asking for alms. "I'm not asking for alms. Please give me a job. I will work. I'm not asking for government bread." The girl began to explain herself. She began to be chased away, but Mary was not going to give up. She was lucky to survive, and the girl realized that no one would help her tomorrow. I know how to count. I know you need people, lots of people to rebuild the city after the war, and you need those who will count the casualties, said Mary. Now the girl had a goal to survive, for the sake of her brother and sister. Your ladyship, you have nobles who can count. At any rate, there will be some skillful men loyal to you. To begin with, the girl explained. Mary knew her worth. But you won't find anyone but me willing to work for a pittance. So Mary knew she had to downplay her labor. I agree to work for a loaf of bread a day. I'll do anything to avoid starvation. I beg you, take me to work, begged Mary. Remember, Mary, even if hard times come, someday they will end, the main character's grandmother once said. No matter what happens, keep studying. If you try hard, one day fate will smile on you. Such words from her grandmother the girl remembered for the rest of her life. Captain, you're already helping here and not going back to the capital. You don't need to worry about the population unnecessarily. Let's go. His aide continued to insist. You'll take any job you're given? Still, the Count decided to ask the poor girl. Yes, any job, promised poor Mary. Then the Count informed his assistant Allison that he was going to a meeting. The Count also ordered the aide to take the girl to the barracks and prepare a contract of employment. The aide still wasn't sure about the captain taking the girl, but he had no right to disobey the Count's order. But if it turns out that you personally took the refugee girl, conversations will start. It could become an occasion for the upper town, added Ellison. I understand all that. But what about the shortage of hands? No one from the capital wants to come to the city, and those who do come are pursuing their own agendas. But she doesn't need anything. Alex began to explain his decision. The Count saw that the girl was completely desperate for a job. Therefore, the man simply could not pass by someone like her. At the same time, Bernard told Allison not to worry, as he had already warned the girl about the consequences. The Count also asked Mary not to tell anyone that it was he who had personally arranged for her to come here. Therefore, once the girl met her boss, she said that she got here after seeing an advertisement. An advertisement? Where did she come from? It's unclear who she is and how she got here. She seems like a nice girl, but there's still something fishy going on. The employee thought to himself at that moment, I'm in charge of the Knight's warehouse. Your job is to keep track of everything in there. Check to see if everything is enough. If it's a little bit, report it immediately, explained the man. Mr. Sean, do I have to check all that? Surprised, Mary was surprised at the scale of their warehouse. But that was really what she had to do, check the contents of the entire warehouse every day. Oh, don't worry, I'll help. Just be careful around here, said he, and together they set to work. Immediately after work, the girl headed home. Today, she was able to provide the children with 2 whole loaves of bread. How happy Mary was that evening. The next day, Sean handed Mary even more bread. It was a whole basket of loaves. Mary, here, take this on your way out. You probably won't finish it because you're giving the food to the little ones. It's last night's bread from the restaurant, narrated the aide. That's right. I hear there's a complete shortage of labor right now. I've got news for you. It was also then that Sean remembered. You're working in administration starting tomorrow, informed the happy news by the supervisor. From that moment on, the girl rose in status. But Mary continued to work too much. Mary, you work so much. You've done everything already. You must have so much work that you have no time at all to have a snack with me. Do you have a hard time working with men? If you have any problems, don't hesitate to tell me. I won't leave you in the lurch, another employee told her. Such clinging to the girl had long since bored her. Luckily for her, from her co-worker's insistence, she was able to be rescued by the Count's assistant. I think she made herself clear. How many times did I tell him not to hit on Mary? I'm sorry. As many times as I don't warn him, he's at it again. The guy apologized as soon as the employee left. And you're good too. Told you to run to me if something like this happens, and you keep your mouth shut. You can't talk to people like him at all, explained Allison. What I'm about to say is very important, Mary. We will be leaving this city soon. Alex's knights are returning to the capital. Unexpectedly, the boy said. Within a year, things in the city had gotten better. Most of the farmland had been restored, so now hunger could be forgotten. The streets of the city are much safer, so their work here is almost done. The man seemed to want to ask another question, but the girl bowed and interrupted him. Mr. Allison, thank you for everything. Thanks to you, it wasn't possible to get through a difficult time and help my brother and sister. For that, I will always be grateful to you, said Mary. Okay, wait. I've been trying to tell you that I have a proposition for you. Sean has praised you so much. How did his tongue not get tired? It's hard to find someone as loyal as you, Mary. Talent like that belongs in the capital. If you accept, you'll work in the 3rd Administrative Division. The captain has given the go-ahead, so it's up to you. The boy announced the happy news and handed Mary the letter. That night, as soon as her older sister put Selena to bed, she decided to read the letter. And what is there to think about? I will stay with the knights. There will be no problems with money. In the capital, I will attach the younger ones to study and be next to the count. Decided the protagonist of the story. But still, for a second, the girl wondered whether Denise and Selena would like it. From their city to the capital is a 2-month journey. Alone, Mary was fine, but she didn't know if the children would endure such a difficult journey. Even if they got there safely, would they be able to get used to their new surroundings? Selena had just started talking again, after all. That second, the little sister woke up to the light being turned on. Oh, still awake? Did something happen to you? Asked Selena. Mary then thought that since she was awake, it was the perfect moment to ask the girl directly if she wanted to move. Yes, to move to a place where there's food and schools and no war. To a better place. But that place is far from here and will take some getting used to. If you don't want to, we won't go anywhere, told Mary. Of course, the sister agreed to the suggestion. As long as Mary was the only one around, Sis would go anywhere. And Dennis doesn't care where to live, as long as they live together. That's how the family decided that they could move far away. A few hours later, the guys were already in another city. They looked around. Everything looked so luxurious. And really, compared to their last city, it was a whole different world. That was also when Mary met her acquaintance, Mr. Sean. Thank you for agreeing to come all this long way. I wouldn't have been able to work at all without you. The man said hello. Oh, it's nothing! Thank you for recommending me, Mary said in response. Sean even found common ground with the kids right away. You'll succeed in the capital, Mary. I've never seen anyone more loyal than you in my life. Sean added unexpectedly. The man also told the girl not to worry, as she will definitely do well. I will try my best. I'm sure we'll be fine. When it comes to work, I'm second to none. Mary's thinking at that moment. As soon as the girl stepped into her new position, she immediately started working late. The girl was voluntarily staying late at work as she was paid extra for overtime. Good for you for working so much. The other employees praised her. That same evening, Mary decided to buy some fruit. As soon as she saw the prices, she was shocked. 10 silver for 4 pieces. In my town, it would cost 3. What prices? The protagonist of this story was upset, and these were the prices of life. Prices in the capital are exorbitant. There was nothing to compare with their previous city. Good thing the knights provided lodging, so that was one less problem. But Mary knew that they couldn't live on one salary, so the girl seriously wondered if they would have enough money. I came to the capital because I thought life was easier here. I can't believe that now, every day, I only think about how to make ends meet. The girl plunged into her thoughts. What about school? Dennis is about to turn 14. We have to do something. Otherwise, instead of going to school, he'll go looking for a job. That's not going to happen. If I get more... The protagonist was thinking seriously. Then she remembered her words that no one but her would agree to work for pennies. The girl had begged for a job. I can't ask for a raise after this. All I have to do is work harder. If I work, there will be money. Mary finally made up her mind. Life went on as usual. She woke up, opened the curtains, cooked breakfast. Then she'd run to work. Worked through lunch, stayed and worked some more. And after work, she'd go grocery shopping. That said, Mary realized that at least once a week she needed to leave early to work out with Dennis and Selena. If work shows up on the weekend, I'm right there. Mary thought the same thing. So the days, weeks, months went by. And after a while, the anniversary of the victory celebration came. Attention! We're leaving early today. We have to clean up the city after the festivities. But that's your headache tomorrow. And today, let's have fun, a man announced. Even if you stay to work today, no raises. Everyone go home. The man also added, and all the employees rejoiced. But only one female employee, Mary, was in a sad mood. Even after such news, she remained standing aside and sad. Then a coworker approached her. Do you understand? To be home tonight. Do you want to stay in today too? The man was surprised and began to scold a little for Mary's strong work capacity. Mary, and you understand me. Do you even know how many times I've already been asked why you stay late every day? Yes, Mistress Mary is so nice. She does the work for others, but still, said Sean. At this time, the other guys were discussing about his lordship trashing Daisy. Awesome! I'd like to see that. Wow, you'd like to see it too? I don't even want to think about such horrors. You don't realize how lucky we are to work with a hero, a savior of the country. Enough about the war. On days like this, we should only talk about good things. The guys were discussing, and yet, when the colleague noticed that the girl still wanted to stay after work today as well, he realized that he had no other choice but to allow her. Mary was stubborn in her convictions. Nothing. Stay, but not for long. Then shut the place down. And don't work too hard. The man said one last thing before he left for home. Victory Day. On this day, the whole country remembers the brilliant victory that was won over the Daisies in the long and grueling war. On this day, people remember how the news of victory echoed across the empire. To commemorate it, they celebrate throughout the night. However, it is not a joyous day for everyone. Some barely survived the war or lost loved ones. Mary's memory of the war was different from the others. The morning after the decisive battle, the girl looked out from behind the window and her breath caught. The banner of Alex's knights shone brighter than the sun, and at the head of the procession stood he, Count Bernard Alex. When Mary saw him for the first time, she felt both relief and fear. Something unknown mingled with her feelings and pierced her very heart. I wonder what Dennis and Selena are doing now. The protagonist wondered in a moment. Then she decided that that was enough for today, and it was time to go home. On a day like this, she should be together with her family. But in that second, the girl heard explosions, from which she was greatly frightened and huddled near the wall, covering her ears. They were ordinary fireworks. Mary knew it wasn't a cannon volley, but still she couldn't move from her seat. She realized that she needed to go home, but was completely unable to get up. It was then that the girl heard a man's voice. Is everything all right? Why haven't you left yet? Asked the Count. The girl explained to him that it was all because of the holiday. I have to get going. Had to come back for a while, replied Bernard to her. Eh? His epaulette came off. Did he come back to change? Then the attentive Mary noticed. I let everyone leave early today, and you still stay to work on a holiday? I heard in your old town you were always the last to leave work. The Earl began to tell her story. Mary wondered what he was talking about. It all looked as if the man was reprimanding her now. It was as if the guy thought the girl was incapable of handling the work on time. So she decided to clarify the whole situation. Yes, it's like that, but I stayed for the pay raise, justified Mary. Wait, you're still getting the old salary? Surprised and questioned the Count. At that moment, the girl thought that now she was really finished. Why didn't you ask your superior for a raise? The Count asked indignantly. I mean, I agreed to work for the most paltry wages. I was afraid of being fired if I asked for a raise. sadly replied the girl, and looked down at the floor, for she felt ashamed. Then come to the main building tomorrow. Starting tomorrow, you'll be working in the first administrative department. Unexpectedly, Bernard informed her. While the third administrative department dealt with the citizens' complaints and organized events, the first administrative department had a much more important role, distributing funds and manpower. So if Mary works there, she'll be closer to the top. That is, she would be working side by side with his lordship. I'll personally make sure you have a good salary. You must have suffered a lot lately. The Earl added with worry. But, your lordship, I don't think I'm suitable. The girl tried to add a word, but Alex didn't even listen to her. He was thinking aloud about what he thought Allison was looking out for the girl. There hadn't been any questions for Mary until now, which was why the guy hadn't paid any attention to her. I apologize. Don't stay out too late. There's better security here than in your old town, but it's still dangerous out on the streets late at night. I'll send one of the knights with you, to escort you home. The Earl said lastly before leaving the office. The next morning, Allison was already apologizing to Mary. I'm sorry. I should have brought it to your attention. I'm ashamed to look you in the eye now. The man admitted. What are you? It wasn't your fault in the slightest. It was I who said nothing. I didn't even think I'd get a pay raise, and even this much. Thank you very much, Mary replied. You've been working very hard. I thought that just assigning a standard salary wasn't enough. So as an apology, I raised it some more. This is the office of the first department. Starting today, you work here. Lunch is paid for by the office. And if you stay late, dinner is also paid for, so don't worry about eating. He began to give a tour of Allison's new workplace. And I have to say something else. The thing is, it seems that rumors have already reached the employees. Allison began to narrate. It was immediately clear that the man wanted to talk about the gossip that the commander had personally promoted the girl. Of course, it's all misunderstood. You were transferred so quickly, in just a day. So I'm warning you that your colleagues will be wary of you for the time being. I'm sorry about that. I'll make sure the gossip is quickly forgotten, promised Allison. Once the girl was at her new workplace, her coworker decided to meet her. He told her that he had an urgent matter that Mary should deal with as soon as possible. After that, he handed Yes an important document. It really had a lot of paperwork in it, and this coworker told Mary to deal with this huge amount before tonight. What else is there to expect? I don't understand how I got to them. I'm not welcome here at all, but that's okay. I'll do my best. I'll keep investing, Mary decided. So, after a few hours of effort, the girl finished everything. At this point, the man informed her that she could go now. I did a good job, didn't I? What if there's a mistake? Or did I miss something? I need to turn it in as soon as possible. A little worried Mary was. When the girl was about to return home, she met the Count on the way. The man noticed that today she was leaving on time. His lordship also decided to ask his new employee if she liked working in the first department. You bet I do, thank you. It's all good. The salary has been raised nicely. You don't have to worry about me. The female employee answered him. They did not talk for a long time, so immediately after hearing the Count decided to leave. But as soon as the man excused himself, the girl felt something unusual. What's wrong with me? My heart is about to jump out of my chest. Why does it beat so hard when I see him? I feel hot. What's the matter with me? That was how Mary didn't understand. She didn't yet know what her true feelings for Bernard were. Thank you all. Great job. I'm so tired. I can't wait to rinse off. After work, all the employees wanted to go home, except for one girl. She continued practicing her night skills. Wow, Mistress Catherine, do you want to continue practicing? You're giving your whole self to the work. I can stay with you. I was just about to continue too. Admired one of the staff members, but a second later he was hit in the forehead with a stick by the girl herself. I'm sorry, but I have to go. Even if what you just said is true, I don't think I'm to be equaled. There's a training session with the first administrative department soon, said Catherine. It's already been a year and a half since Mary joined the first department, and every day the girl stays late. She still needs money to buy replacement uniforms. Her job is not difficult, and she finishes everything on time. She just wants to be noticed. One summer afternoon a year and a half ago, Mary was stopped by Sean. "You're going to night right now, aren't you? No take these papers to them?" a coworker asked. "It seems His Majesty is up to something massive. The war has been over for a long time, so why are they only now reducing the army? It's clear that he needs to control our commander, and we are just unfortunate victims of these political games." The boy began to resent. "I still have a lot of work to do. I'm sorry, Mary." Also apologized the guy, though it was already time for the girl to go too. "So, I turned in the paperwork. Then I gathered the materials I was asked for," pondered the lady as she walked to the other end of the office. But then she heard Lord Allison's familiar voice. "You are taking on too much. You can't please everyone," said Allison. "One more word, and I will consider it as insubordination. In the meantime—" But no sooner had the Earl finished what he wanted his assistant to say than he noticed someone peeking behind them. After a second, Mary was caught that it was she who was peeping at them. The girl immediately decided to apologize. She explained that she was on her way to the Night Corps and didn't mean to eavesdrop, although it seemed quite the opposite. Then Alex remembered that the girl just might be able to help him. A few minutes later, they arrived at the jewelry store. "Can you choose the most beautiful piece of jewelry?" unexpectedly asked the man. The guy explained that he wanted to give a gift to someone. "She likes stones mined in the South, and you're just from the city from that area. I don't understand anything about jewelry at all. You're a woman. You should know about it. Any advice?" the man asked, and then Mary's gaze fell on a single necklace. Although, in fact, for the girl, all jewelry was some kind of the same. Already when the Count was buying this jewelry at the checkout, he was deciding with the consultant how to package it better. "Are you taking it as a gift? Do you want it wrapped in a special way? Are you giving it to your mother? Young girls don't usually wear this, but it looks elegant and tasteful," the saleswoman said. At this time, Mary stood embarrassed at the back. "How so? A member of high society would never turn his eyes on an ant like me, and even if he does, I'll mistakenly think he likes me. In fact, he hardly remembers my name. He just needs me to run an errand. I know the ways of the world. I misunderstood. I've never seen jewelry in my life." Thought the protagonist of this story and was actually quite upset. The girl had already begun to accuse herself of what a fool she was. Unconsciously, Mary even began to cry. That night, she even had a dream of the Count handing her this piece of jewelry. The dream was so believable that when Mary woke up, she was greatly disappointed. "What did I just dream? I was pretty upset at the time, of course, but I should have dreamed that." "Crazy," thought the girl. A few minutes later, Selina looked into her older sister's room. The girl said that she was scared to sleep alone, so the sis offered to sleep this night together. Right. Gotta think more about the kids. That's why I'm back at work. I even started running errands for my colleagues, even though their business didn't concern me at all in the name of making sure the kids had enough of everything. The protagonist understood. Still, Mary was working too hard. She wanted to repay his lordship for his kindness. Maybe he'll pay attention to me when I've accomplished something. Mary allowed for that possibility. As Allison and the Earl walked down the street, they noticed the lights on in the office. Allison assumed it was Mary again. The boy told her that she had been staying late a lot lately. When Mary opened her eyes, she saw the silhouette of the guy in front of her. "Did I pass out right at my desk? I hope no one sees. Who's that?" wondered the girl. As soon as she realized that it was the Count sitting in front of her, she became very frightened. Mary thought that now she might get fired. "And what are you doing here? The offices are cool at night," said the man. To be honest, the girl couldn't even believe that she was now in the real world. "No way! I'm definitely dreaming. What's even going on? Didn't he come already because he's worried?" Didn't understand the protagonist. "You. I guess I'm not a very good boss, am I? I just stopped by to ask you not to stay any longer. There's no rush on these cases. Your salary should be enough to live on in the capital." Suddenly, the guy said, "Is he reprimanding me now? But what else did I expect? Of course." Mary thought, and realized that she had to get out of this situation somehow. Then the girl decided to reveal that she was actually staying employed because of debts. "Yes, my family has a lot of debts, and it's up to me to pay them off. I am in no way complaining. The salary is quite enough," Mary admitted. The family did have many debts, but during the war, all the archives burned, so now Mary was brazenly lying. She was lying, but she couldn't tell the Count the whole truth. "I can't tell him that I'm trying my best to get him to even look at me." The girl's mind raced. "That's it. I see. It must be hard for you," said the man. By the looks of it, he even believed Mary. Just then, the Earl abruptly brought up the fact that they had recently picked out a piece of jewelry. The man said that his brother's wife really liked it. Only after a second did the girl realize that the jewelry was just for her brother's wife. She's due to give birth to an heir soon, so a gift was needed. "I think the administrative department is aware of it," told Bernard. That was when it became clear to the girl why she was considering the list of gifts for the Count. So that jewelry was for the brother's wife, not the bride. Surprised, and at the same time reassured Mary herself. "It's getting late. Go home." Before saying goodbye and leaving the office, the first thing the man said was, "I disobeyed him, he scolded me, and on top of that, I also lied. It makes me feel bad." The girl admitted to herself at that moment. "But nothing! But today I'm happier than ever." Mary also relaxed calmly before continuing her work. A month later, the girl met up with Catherine. "You're the Mary from the first administrative, aren't you? You and I have a lot to talk about. You don't mind, do you?" asked the girl. Catherine had recently learned that she was the commander's escort, to which she was greatly surprised. "Of course you're the commander's escort. Well, who else is? Rumor has it that the commander has taken from you to be his assistant. I knew that such a talent would definitely not go to waste. I was even worried because they say the new girl works day and night. Yeah, but at your age, girls only think about dating." The guys were talking amongst themselves. "Well, well done. The commander paid attention to you. Other men definitely don't stand a chance now, but at least don't forget us. Who else am I going to have lunch with?" The boys continued to talk. Catherine herself didn't even realize what they were even talking about. "Have you ever even seen me outside the Corps? I only go back and forth from the pad to the office. When do I get to accompany the commander?" The girl explained her incomprehension to him. "Well, so I've heard. Then where did the gossip come from? Maybe you just have the same names? Do you know another Catherine here? So none of this is true?" "Yeah, they also say the new girl works in the administration department. They call her the shadow employee." The boys discussed the gossip aloud. "That's right. I think I know who it is. The new girl from the first administrative department." Catherine realized then. That afternoon, Catherine noticed a girl walking near the Count. Who is she? And what is she doing near the commander? She doesn't look like a knight. Probably working for Allison. She's so quiet. Catherine thought to herself. Since their conversation, events had taken a strange turn. His lordship began to take Mary everywhere with him. Even at the audience at the Imperial Palace and at the training of the night squads, Mary was always with the Count. "Once we return, I have an urgent errand for you. Answer all the letters that have been delivered," Alex also asked. His lordship even started entrusting her with personal matters. Mary's colleagues strongly dislike this, complaining that they only get the odd errand. "He seems to treat me special. That's all I need. I don't know why he has to take me everywhere." The girl thought, but still walked beside her Count. Another man was watching them from the window. His name was Marquis Rom. The man assumed it was Catherine next to Bernard, but his assistant explained that it was most likely another girl with the Earl. "Then who is it? Are there any other women listed in Alex's knights besides Catherine?" He wondered. "That girl works in administration. She's not a knight. I've told you many times." The assistant continued to explain. I see. So this is the new girl they call the shadow employee. If you think of it that way, Catherine is much easier. Is that what kind of women Bernard likes? Realized the Marquis. That afternoon, Mary finally met Catherine. The girl had already heard of her. If you're going to use my name, do it wisely. Catherine was angry with her. What? Calling yourself by your name? I don't understand anything at all. Didn't understand what was going on, Mary, though Catherine thought the girl was only pretending, since the rumors had already reached Catherine herself. Have you really not heard? Everyone is saying that the commander has assigned Catherine to be his escort. Is this your doing? Apparently I've been mistaken for you. Most of the commander's entourage is male, and I'm the only female knight here. Since the commander is accompanied by a woman, everyone thought it was me. Explained the whole point of the situation to the girl. Lady Catherine, my sincere apologies, if that offended you. Immediately Mary started to apologize, but Catherine stopped her. No, you didn't. Not at all. I thought you knew about all the gossip. I thought you were purposely not saying anything to use my name, explained Catherine. Yes, I got it all wrong. I'm sorry. Now I know why everyone is so interested in you. It's one thing for a commander to assign someone from the administration to be his aide, but this is the first time he's been accompanied by a woman, Catherine said. That's why these fools are so interested. Mary, if anyone else shuts up about this, go to my night corps. I'll put those creeps' brains back in their place in no time, Catherine also added. The girl also suggested Mary to have lunch together sometime. At last, Catherine had a friend here. This time, the Earl was together with his assistant, Allison. Bernard was already thinking of going, so he asked Allison to handle the remaining papers. Once the document was in the assistant's hands, then Allison immediately recognized Mary's handwriting. Sir, may I ask? Recently, you have begun to assure Mary to enter your personal files, however. Do you have no other reason to do so? Decided the aide inquired. The Earl then explained that what he needed right now was someone who knew how to be quiet. By quiet, he meant someone who doesn't care what anyone else says, someone who does his job without question. Considering what's going on in the county right now, there was still a lot of unrest in the county. Some people still wanted Bernard to be Earl, but Kai was doing a good job. At least that's what Bernard Alex himself thought. Even during the war, Bernard tried to be a mere shadow of the family, all so that his brother could have the power. Bernard didn't want those honors. I'll never be an earl, so I need someone who knows his job and doesn't break at the right moment. I need someone who knows his place. Tried to convey to his assistant Bernard. Handle the rest of the paperwork. Be more attentive. Bernard also asked him one last time. Time in the capital flew by. A month, 2, 3. A year, 2. And on Mary's 5th year here, something unexpected happened. At night, Catherine burst sharply into Mary's house. I'm sorry to show up so late, but we have an urgent argument, said Catherine. That night, Earl Kai Alex died. His wife began to blame it all on the Earl's brother Bernard. Murderer! It was all you! If he hadn't gotten on that damned horse you gave him! Shouted the woman in tears. At this time, Mary was already returning from work. She had been working very hard the last few days. Mary remembered how the Count had told her to work less. That was also when the girl happened to meet Lord Allison. I'm sorry, I should have finished earlier, but something delayed it. Immediately, the girl started apologizing to the assistant for her late work. That's okay. You don't have to apologize. I'm the one who should apologize to you. The funeral coincided with the Victory Day celebration. The administration had a hard time. Allison interrupted her. Count Kai Alex had tragically died after falling from his horse. Everyone, and especially Alex's knights, were deeply shocked by such unexpected news. At one time, they had to prepare for the swearing in of the new Earl and the celebration of Victory Day. Only after long days filled with business were they able to let go of their grief. But his lordship Bernard still could not get away from his worries. His lordship's whole life had been spent at the side of the late Earl of Kai. Bernard had devoted his life to helping his brother rule the land. Now he had lost both his brother and the meaning of life. You worry too much. His lordship is feeling better now. Today he went to the annual banquet at the Imperial Palace. Attempted to reassure the girl Ellison. Then she decided to ask him why on earth he was here. I still have things to do. I'm going to drop off the paperwork to the commander's office now and head to the palace. Explained the aide before they said their goodbyes. On the way home, Mary thought about Bernard's words about needing someone who knew how to be quiet right now. What if something similar had happened to Denise or Selena? There's no way I could have borne that grief. For a second, she imagined Mary, but at the same time, the girl realized that one could not grieve forever. She would wipe away her tears and get on with her life. Even though I'll know ahead of time that it won't be like before. But he needs support now. How can I help him? Mary pondered. When she went into the office to take the papers, she suddenly met the commander, which frightened her. Bernard asked her to leave the papers on the desk. Then the girl noticed that the guy cleaned up the desk, although she could have done it herself. Thought you had left for the imperial banquet, Mary admitted. As it turned out, the Earl was there, and even listened to some nonsense. Therefore, he decided to leave early. I meant to tell you earlier, but it completely slipped my mind. I'm sorry you had to clean up the mess I made here. Still, the girl decided to apologize. It must have been hard on you and Allison, Alex assumed. In fact, the girl was only worried because she saw how hard it was for her boss. She really wanted to be strong for this man's sake. No matter what I do, I'll still be your subordinate. We'll never be on equal footing. No action, no words will help. I keep trying so I can tell myself I'm not giving up. That's enough for me. Decided the protagonist. Even if for his lordship, I will forever remain invisible. Even if he will never reciprocate me. Enough of what I have now. The girl admitted to herself. But 6 months later, the guy made an unexpected proposal. Marry me, said he once during dinner. Count Bernard offered to fictitiously marry him. I'm glad you said yes. I know it's too much to ask, but I'm really counting on you, the man confessed. Just don't think I'm just telling you about my plan. I want you to know what happens next. Bernard also decided to add, I've decided to announce to everyone that like the last fool I proposed to you. Because I lost my head in love, I am now playing the role of a fool in love. From now on, you and I are lovers. Explain men. This puzzled the girl even more. After all, she didn't know how lovers acted. They probably talk sweetly to each other, holding hands and kissing on the cheek. Like that? And what am I supposed to do? These are just fantasies and I already feel like a criminal. Mary was puzzled. And how can I not imagine such a thing? But somehow it's hard to imagine the gentle Earl Bernard. Rolled through the girl's mind. During the lunch break, Catherine happened to run into her friend. What are you settling in here all alone? Is something bothering you? Have the knights been pestering again? Assumed the girl, but she didn't yet know what had actually happened to her friend. If only, Catherine. I'm marrying Count Bernard Alex, my superior. He proposed to me yesterday. Mary informed unexpectedly. But he and I have a sham marriage. His lordship needs this marriage to avoid an engagement to the princess. Immediately the girl explained herself. Catherine didn't even know what to answer her friend anymore, so only silently decided to feed the girl. At this time, Mary continued to think about the recent events. If I marry an earl, then, it turns out I will become a countess. And it won't be so easy to communicate, reasoned the protagonist. The girl didn't want it to be like that. And we'll have to restore all the documents, and the credits will come out on us. Mary also pondered. Mary never fully told her friend what she was really thinking about. But still, the girl decided to talk to Catherine about it a little later. The next day, while working, the employee asked Mary to take care of some more documents, since the girl is still staying. That's when the Count came to them. The guy told her that he was here for personal reasons. I stopped by to pick up my beloved. Unexpectedly, the Count said, and all the staff heard it. The guys totally did not expect that his love was working in their department. Mary, on the other hand, realized that the Count had begun to play a prank on the lovers. Now the girl was forced to defiantly in front of everyone to go with the Count. Bernard continued to play and pretend that they had been dating for a long time. You could have told everyone by now. We've been together for 3 years now. Since we're getting married soon, it's long past time to tell the others. Demonstratively said the Earl. Please enter our situation. Mary must be a bit absent-minded these days, and no asking her to do other tasks for you, asked the Earl. As they were about to go outside, the man noticed that the girl hadn't brought her outerwear with her, so he took his coat out of himself to cover Mary with it. This shocked the girl even more. What am I supposed to do? I'm going to faint right here. The girl actually thought to herself at that moment. A couple minutes later, Catherine came out of the room. She was about to suggest that they have dinner together, but then she saw a lot of puzzled faces. It was then that she was told that Mary was soon to marry the Earl. Catherine had to pretend as if she was surprised at this news. By this time, the boys were on their way home together. He's too close. Just a little more, and he'll hear my heart beating frantically. Confusedly thought the girl. Mary was about to suggest that he not pretend to be in love anymore for the day, but then they looked out the window and saw that they were still being watched. They had to keep playing along until they reached the carriage. Is it going to be like this every day now? Are we going to pretend to be lovers every day? Even though I know it's not true, my heart is still pounding so hard, ran the girl through her head. I guess I'll never stop dreaming and hoping. Mary was actually thinking. The girl had already decided to say goodbye to the Count as they reached the carriage. But then the man declared that he would not let his beloved go home alone at such a late hour. As a result, Bernard had to ride along with Mary. To show his respect for his other half, the guy gave his hand so that the girl elegantly entered the carriage. All around, everyone was chattering about the relationship between the Count and a female member of his department. Madame Mary is having an affair with his lordship? Even if they were meeting secretly, how could they even hide so well? What will the princess think? Doesn't this worsen the relationship with the imperial family? The boys were discussing. Catherine alone stood back and thought about what had happened in the first place. Is that what Mary wanted to tell you about? Her friend guessed. What do you think, Lady Catherine? Are they right to marry? Well, objectively, those two are not suited for each other at all. Then another staff member decided to ask her opinion. What's my opinion going to do? Far more important is what Mary herself thinks and feels. And his lordship, right? Cleverly replied the girl, after which the staff decided to go home. At this time, Mary rode in silence together in the same carriage with the Count. The girl remembered how he had covered her with his coat today. It was then that the lad decided to ask if Mary had told her brother and sister about the wedding. So far, the girl had not done so. I haven't told my parents yet either, but it's better not to hide anything from the family. Soon everyone will know about it. Just act natural, like everything is for real, the man pointed out. Mary really wondered how Dennis and Selena would react when she told them she was getting married. It would be great if the kids were excited. Your brother and sister will have enough money not only to live on, but also to study. Don't worry about them, the man decided to say. At that moment, the coachman decided to clarify the address where the young people were getting to. Since the road is too narrow, the carriage would not pass. Therefore, the employee said that the guys would have to get off here. That's when the girl realized that they had arrived right under her house. Mary immediately decided to apologize to the man for living in such a place. Bernard got angry, though, since he didn't want the girl to apologize like that. Maybe when we're alone you don't notice, but since we're pretending to be lovers, try not to apologize so much. The particularly observant will suspect us right away. Got it? The man asked sweetly. Now enter. We should get to know your family, the Count added unexpectedly. Though the girl didn't feel like it, she had no other option as the carriage had already left. When Mary crossed the threshold of her home, her sister immediately rushed at her with a hug. Selena was surprised to see a man by Mary's side. It was then that Denise joined them. They had to tell their relatives everything. Denise immediately disliked the whole idea of courage. What nonsense! And you always came home at night. The house was watched by us. You were always working. And now, all of a sudden, you've had time to go out and get married. They hated the news very much. She was coming in late because she was with me. There's always time for an affair at work. Then a man stood up for her. I understand you don't want Mary to marry. Don't worry. She won't drift away from you once she's married. Bernard began to reassure them. Mary could see that her brother was too angry, so she decided to talk to him privately. I'm sorry, Denise. I know this is unexpected for you. I'm sorry for hiding it from you for so long. The girl decided to apologize. Sister, I never told you, but I used to run out on dates a lot. Then, at the same time, Denise unexpectedly confessed. Recently met one at work. Wait, now it's not about me. Stumbled the guy when the girl began to climb on him with a lot of questions. I was going to say, I know a lot about this stuff. You can tell when someone's having an affair. Like, they're grooming themselves more or balking for no reason. You've never acted like that, Dennis remarked. I just want to ask one thing. Do you really want to marry him? Asked Dennis. It's been about 15 years. It seems like after the war it was hard for her to talk. They're still children who need protection and care, but I shouldn't have worried so much about them, thought the Count, looking at his future spouse's little sister. Selina, you don't want your sister to marry me either? Bernard decided to ask. But to the guy's surprise, the girl on the contrary said that she was happy about it. Such a great man and marrying her Mary. You're out of tea. I'll pour some more, the girl decided. As the boy got up to help Selina, he happened to hear Dennis and Mary talking outside the door. How fortunate he was to run out of tea at that moment. The girl told Denise that she really wanted to marry the Count, as she loved him with all her heart. From such an unexpected turn of events, Bernard's cup even fell out of his hands. Dennis told the girl that she had it written all over her face. You can tell when a person truly falls in love. Love can never be hidden from the eyes. It always expresses itself in a person's behavior, new habits. And although the Count asked the girl to pretend that they were in love, Mary did not have to fulfill it, since she really sympathized with a man like Bernard Alex. Only looking at him, the girl's eyes shone brighter than any stars. And in general, what mattered most to the brother was that the girl was happy with the man she loved. In a moment, the boys remembered that they had left the Count alone with his little sister. Therefore, they decided that they needed to go back. When they returned, they noticed that Selina was having tea with Bernard nicely. Looks like I was worried for nothing. Have they managed to get along? Immediately the girl thought. As soon as Dennis saw the Count again, he decided to apologize to the man. I apologize. I was rude. The matter touched the family, so I didn't hold back. Justified the guy. The most important thing was that now Dennis was not against the girl marrying the Count. Looking at the little sister, it was obvious that she was also very happy that Mary was getting married. Even though it was all a game, Mary was still very happy that they had given the go-ahead. Your ladyship, please take care of my sister and make her happy. Also asked Denisu before Bernard Alex left their home. As the young people walked back outside to see the man off, Mary decided to thank him for everything and at the same time ask him to forgive her for her brother. It's all right. He's understandable. Calmly, Bernard accepted this. But then at the same time, the boy scrolled over the girl's words that he had overheard accidentally outside the door. I love the Count, with all my heart. It's written all over your face. When you asked me to hire you, at first I thought you were a spy daisy, a pretend refugee. Look, maybe I was right then. You did a great job with the part today. Decided to praise her boyfriend. By the way, you're moving into a new house tomorrow. Tell your brother by your sister. Bernard also added unexpectedly. The man felt that it was better to deal with it quickly. He also advised the girl to go pack, and then he would pick up her whole family in the morning. The girl wanted to say something to him, But he didn't even listen to her and immediately walked right back out. When Bernard walked towards his house, he happened to meet some other people. The locals immediately realized that this man didn't live around here. "And who is this? She looks like a nobleman. Isn't it Count Alex? And what's he doing in this shithole? Maybe some murderer is hiding here? No, it's nothing serious." Other people were whispering. The journey was too long for Bernard today. He was very tired this day. The hectic day had been replaced by a perfectly normal morning. Although, okay, it's actually the strangest morning since Mary has been in this town. As the boys rode the carriage on the road to the Earl's house, Selina acted like a wild one. She looked at everything around her and shouted loudly, showing her admiration. "Don't worry, you will be told everything upon arrival. First, you will be taken to your rooms and then shown around the palace. Breakfast has been prepared for you, so let me know if you get hungry." Allison reassured her, though Mary was still embarrassed for her little sister. The neighborhood they were to move to live in was the swankiest neighborhood in the city. No matter how much money you have, you can't just buy a house here. You have to belong to the very top of society. Mary never dreamed of living here. Only a few hours ago, Mary had heard from the Earl's assistant that they were moving to this neighborhood. "This is too much, Lord Allison. How can I live in such a luxurious place? It only makes it worse on my soul," strongly surprised the girl. But Allison told her not to worry, as it was only temporary. "I don't think it's right. I can prepare for the wedding here, too." Still continuing to prove her point, Mary continued to argue her point. She was indeed very embarrassed. "I'm from a poor family, too, so I understand how you feel right now. Like you're out of place. Like the clothes you're wearing aren't made for you at all. But we chose this path ourselves." Allison tried to reassure her. "You'll get used to it." "No, you have to get used to it," explained the boy. That's when Mary realized that she had chosen this path herself, after all. Therefore, she shouldn't complain about such a luxurious life, certainly not to her. "I thought this neighborhood was too much, but our Count wouldn't even think of it. To him, it's probably just a beautiful neighborhood," said Allison and laughed. Mary realized that Lord Allison was right. Still, the girl would soon get used to it. No, not like that. Mary should get used to it. At this time, the lady was informed that the carriage was ready. She was to leave. But there was uneasiness on her soul. "What mother will sit idly by when her son marries?" the woman asked rhetorically. She must see his chosen one after all. Finally, Mrs. Mary arrived at the palace. There she was met by the butler, whose name is Dietrich. From now on, he will assist the girl. "For the next 2 months, you will be staying in this manor, so for anything you need, contact me," said the man. And that's when Mary finally recognized him. "I thought you didn't remember me. You and I only caught a glimpse of each other at Mr. Kai's funeral. Not very pleasant, madam," said the head butler and smiled. He was originally supposed to be at Alex's palace, but circumstances were a bit different. All in all, Dietrich was very happy that he would now be assisted by the new countess. Compared to the count's permanent residence, this estate is a small house. Therefore, the butler asked to be allowed to show him around. Thus, the boys had already passed the 10th room in number. Dietrich told them that here was a small drawing room. It was close to Mrs. Selina's chambers, so they could safely call their friends here. This estate is indeed very large and imposing for poor people like Mary and her family. They still need some time to get used to such living conditions. Nevertheless, Madame has excellent taste since she chose such a place. The butler had already suggested going further to tour the palace, but then Selina admitted that her legs were already sore from walking so much. "How did I not notice before? Right, I have some papers for you to hand over. Mistress Mary, please come to the study," the head butler asked. As soon as the girl read what the document was, she was greatly surprised. It was an application for admission to the Imperial Academy. It is the best institute in the entire empire. The butler told her that to begin with, Mr. Denis and Mrs. Selina would undergo an entrance test. Of course, Selina was incredibly overjoyed to hear such wonderful news. Things were really looking up. It seems that the girl will be thanking Mary, her sister, and in general the entire imperial family for a few more years for the opportunity to study. It's such a chance to get an excellent education. Selina had never dreamed of such a thing before. How wonderful it was to see her sister so happy and smiling. The Count promised to get them in, but to get them into the Imperial Academy! The protagonist of this story was pleasantly surprised. By the way, Mistress Mary will also have to study, unexpectedly added the butler. Then the girl decided to inquire about the training of what now awaited her. Etiquette. The Countess's manners must be impeccable. Of course, you have been chosen the best teacher, narrated the butler, and then the girl wondered who she had been placed with. It was the woman everyone called the Queen of Manners. She too was Countess Alex, and it was Eliza Alex. The Queen of Manners, Eliza Alex. She shone brightest in the light, but after her husband died, she stopped appearing in it. And when her eldest son, Count Kai, died, she became a recluse. She wanted to leave the capital and return to her parents' home in the county of the neighboring city. It was not surprising, because experiencing such grief for a mother is a very difficult stage in life. But once Mary found out that she would be taught etiquette by the famous Countess Eliza herself, she was incredibly excited about it. What? Eliza Alex stayed in the capital especially for me? The girl couldn't even believe it. Mary did not even know about this amazing fact. As it turned out, such a decision was made by the family of emperors only this morning. At the same time that the girl rejoiced, she also began to worry a lot. After all, she will be taught by the future mother-in-law herself. Then the protagonist of this story, who had just moved to her emperor's palace, remembered how she once discussed a similar topic with her friend Catherine. You know, Mary, my friend and her husband had another fight. And you know what it's about. Because of her mother-in-law. She doesn't like anything, and she always finds something to pick on. When my friend hears her mother-in-law's name, she puts her head on her shoulders. Have you ever experienced such a thing? Decided to ask a curious Catherine. What is she talking about? Yes, I'm far from all that. Thought Mary that day. The girl didn't have much in the way of girlfriends as it was. The only girl she socialized with was Catherine herself. Therefore, Mary did not know about the nuances of life and communication with her husband's mother. She was not even interested in this topic because she thought that it was all just far away from her life. It was only after a while, this second, that Mary realized her mistake. She thought about why she hadn't inquired about this story and life experience from her friend Catherine that day. I should have questioned Catherine about everything then. What if Eliza doesn't like me? Really badly began to worry Mary, but nothing could be changed, so she had to think of something on the fly. Besides, at that moment the butler reported that Mistress Eliza was about to enter this room. Mistress Mary, it looks like Mistress Eliza is already here, said Dietrich, and smiled caustically. He realized that the girl was afraid of meeting her mother-in-law. But the guy himself, on the contrary, already wanted to introduce them as soon as possible. This is your first meeting. You need to go out to her as soon as possible. So many emotions, narrated Dietrich, and pulled the girl with all his might by the arm. The guy was not even stopped by the fact that Mary was very afraid of this lady. At this time, Bernard's mother, who had already arrived at the palace, met Allison at the entrance. The woman immediately noticed that the aide had been appointed head of the guards, which she defiantly announced in front of the guys. Yes, but I still have a lot to learn, Allison admitted and bowed to the woman as respect. Don't be silly. I'm a good judge of character, so tell me, how did it occur to my son to get married? Already she was ready to start listening to the woman, but then someone knocked on the room. It was Count Bernard Alex's bride-to-be, Mary. The girl was actually very shy, and was setting herself up before entering this room and meeting her mother-in-law. She's going to like me, right? Worried Mary. That's when she took her first step into the room. So you're my son's fiancée, said Eliza Alex herself. As soon as Mary arrived, she immediately started telling her mistress that she was very happy to meet her. The girl immediately introduced herself to Eliza. At that, Mary thought that since she was in a big hurry, she now looked unpleasant. But to her surprise, the first meeting with her mother-in-law went quite differently than Mary had imagined. Eliza immediately noticed how much the girl was worried, so to reassure her, she gently took the future bride of her son by the hand. "I see you're worrying too much. It's all right," said the woman, and tried to reassure the young lady. Just then, the Count's mom decided to formally introduce herself. "I am Eliza Alex, Bernard's mom. I'm very happy to meet you too, Mary," said the woman. When the woman suggested to Mary that the girl keep her company and drink tea together, Mary realized that the woman in front of her was a very kind one. All fear vanished in a flash. Already in a couple of minutes, Mary was drinking tea together with her mother-in-law, having a nice conversation. "Bernard came to me out of the blue and said he was getting married. Said you two love each other. I couldn't even imagine that someone would love such a rude man." In all seriousness, the woman recounted, "He's such a troublemaker. I'm sure when it comes to love, he has absolutely no manners, am I right?" His mom decided to ask him. Since Mary doesn't know anything about love herself, she decided to say that her son is on the contrary very suave and gentle. "Really? I'm glad to hear that at least around his beloved he behaves differently. I thought he would never let anyone into his heart." Eliza confessed at that moment to Alex. "That's why I'm so glad he found a life partner. Thank you." "Also sweet and friendly," the mother-in-law added. Talking to the woman, Mary didn't forget to do what the Count said. No one must know the truth about them, after all, even if they had to surrender someone's trust for it. The boy had done a lot of things for Mary herself, so the girl felt she should repay him in kind. And though she was sorry that she had to deceive such a good-natured woman, Mama Eliza, but at that moment there was no other option.